I think we've got to be really honest with each other. The entire real estate industry and seemingly the entire TikTok community wants to see Airbnb hosts fail. There's been this idea of an Airbnb bust going around, and weirdly enough, so many people have been rooting for this idea to be true so that Airbnb hosts lose their asses on all the investments they've been making over the past couple of years. And you know what? A lot of hosts are losing money or making less money, myself included. I bought a property in Scottsdale about a year ago, and I thought it was going to perform a certain way, and let's just say it did not go according to plan. And so for a second there, I was tempted to throw in the towel and think, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there is something to this Airbnb bust, but it's just so easy to think that way. And so I thought, well, how about instead of complaining about it, I do something about it? And so I got back into the driver's seat of my portfolio and really went back to the root of why I got into this industry, which was to create experiences, and I completely changed the trajectory of my portfolio. So what I wanted to do was share with you the talk that I gave at HostCon, which is my short-term rental conference that I just threw a couple of months ago. It's completely sold out, over 400 investors in the room, standing room only, people sitting on the ground. It was absolutely crazy. And what was even crazier was that so many people approached me after my talk, telling them that I changed their mind and their perspective on the direction of this industry. So if you give me the next 24 minutes of your time, I promise to open your mind to what's possible in this industry. And I will show you that you don't need to go out and buy more properties to make more money on Airbnb. And the answer to making more money on Airbnb actually lies within your portfolio. I'm Rob Abasolo, by the way. I'm the founder and creator of the Rob Built channel, which is the largest Airbnb YouTube channel in the world. I'm also the co-host of the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Podcast, which is the largest real estate podcast in the world. So I promise I know a thing or two about Airbnb and real estate. So grab a pen and paper and let's take a quick trip back to HostCon. All right, let's do this thing. So this presentation is called Designing ROI. Here's the deal. So many short-term rental hosts are obsessed with increasing their door count. And I totally get it. I'm all for scaling. This is something that we all go through as short-term rental investors, real estate investors, is we just want more. And it's something that I've gone through, and it's actually something that I've been changing my philosophy on. But the problem is that so many hosts aren't actually maximizing their revenue before they go on to the next property. And so this is something that I have found so much in the short-term rental community is like we get this Airbnb, we furnish it, we're ready to go, and boom, like we run it, we're like, great, let's get to the next one because we want to make more cash flow. My goal is to show you that your current portfolio is actually an untapped gold mine. And then I'm going to walk you through my current projects and how I'm executing them and give you just an update on the Rob Built portfolio. So let's get down to the basics here really fast, all right? When you're evaluating a short-term rental, this is the metric that you're going to use. Cash on cash return. According to Merriam's dictionary, in investing, the cash on cash return is the ratio of annual before tax cash flow to the total amount of cash invested expressed as a percentage. So basically, however much money you put into it, and then whatever profit you make gets divided into that, and that's your cash on cash return, okay? So I'll kind of show you how this works. If you invested $100,000 and your net profit is $20,000, meaning after all of your expenses, what you take home at the end of the day is $20,000. Does anybody know what your cash on cash return is? 20%. That's right. Kudos. Okay, 20%. So if you invest $200,000 and you make $20,000, that would be a 10% return. This has been the gold standard for a very long time whenever you're analyzing your short-term rentals. And it is just one piece of the pie, but it is what we look to, all right? And this is what we've been chasing really for the past year, really for the past 5 years. But we've been chasing it specifically for the last year because it's just getting harder, right? Interest rates are going up a little bit more, and so we're over here scrambling to get into a property and invest $100,000 or $200,000 into the next property, and it's just tough. So it got me thinking. The real question here is not, can I go and set up another property and make a 20% cash on cash return? The real question is, how can I increase the revenue of my current portfolio? This is really what we should all be asking ourselves. Can I invest $10,000 back into my property and increase my revenue by $5,000? That's huge. Just that alone would be a 50% return, right? But I'm over here focusing and trying to get another property that's going to make me like 12, 15, 20. But the 50% is right in front of us. And it's way easier to reinvest back into our current properties than it is to go out and buy a new property. It's hard. It's hard to buy a property. It's hard work, right? It's a grind. You got to go. You got to fly out there. You got to buy the furniture, and then you have 1,000 boxes. And you're like, what do I do with this? Like, Rob never talks about this in the YouTube videos, and it's like, I don't really know what to do with boxes. That's why. This is the honest truth. But it is hard to set up a property. This whole thing all started with pickleball. If you guys follow my Instagram, then you know I've been dabbling in the world of pickleball. I am not good, by the way, but I like playing it. I really do. And so I kind of just have been hearing about pickleball and how it's the fastest growing sport in America and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, it can't be that fun. And then I played, I was like, that is fun. But I heard that it was a really popular amenity on Airbnb. So I've had this Scottsdale property here. And it's an amazing property, right? This is a stunning $3.25 million luxury property in North Scottsdale. And it really is a one-of-a-kind property on 5 acres. As you can see here, it's actually got views of the mountains in the back. It's called Camelback Mountain, I think, something like that. I guess I should know. My AI does all this for me, but it's really amazing views of this, okay? But the problem with this property is that, in November of 2022, last year, I grossed $13,756.54. And a lot of you are like, well, dang, dude, that's a lot. What are you complaining about? Well, my expenses on that property are $20,000. So last November, I lost about $7,000 on this Scottsdale property. And I was like, well, that's not fun. No one likes when I talk about that. And so I started looking at some of the other Airbnbs in Scottsdale, and I was like, well, it must be an Airbnb bust, right? Like, this is what it is. But then I started examining a lot of the competition, and it turned out that they were all booked, like all of them, and they had ugly houses, but they had these amazing amenities and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, something's not really computing with me that I've got this amazing architecture that's like on 5 acres. It's a breathtaking property, but then these not as cool properties are making more money than me, and they're booked way more than me. And it taught me this lesson that architecture is cool, but it's really nothing without the amenities to substantiate the architecture. I do think that there are certain markets where an amazing house with architecture would definitely crush it just based on that alone. But in a market like Scottsdale, where you see like this guy has like a jungle gym and a pool, and I saw like a race cart with like for Power Wheels and kids, and like bocce ball courts and home theaters, and like all of my competition actually were creating experiences. And I thought architecture was an experience, but what makes it an experience are the amenities, right? And so I had this idea. I had this dilapidated kind of tennis court on the property. Again, it's on 5 acres, and when we bought the property, we were like, well, it might be cool to refinish it, but that's expensive. I don't really know if we should do that. Let's make some money first. Once we make the money, we'll use the profits to reinvest back into the property, which, by the way, I've said that like 80 times in my career, and it literally bites me in the ass 100% of the time. Like, never do that. Never piecemeal your property. That's really the main lesson here. Like, if you're gonna launch big, because it is such a terror to like shut down your property for a month or 2, years into it, when you're already used to that cash flow. So if you're gonna do renovations, if there are things that you're thinking about doing it, just do it now. It's so much easier. Luckily, this was kind of off to the side of the property, so not a huge deal. We were able to actually get this done in about a week or 2. And here's what it turned into. It's a pretty big difference if you ask me. I literally couldn't use it at all. I mean, it was like there's cracks. They had to come and grind out strips and resurface it and do a bunch of different things. And then it turned into this. And that's really quite a beautiful photo. I really overthought the color scheme on this. And the guys are like, can you just pick the colors? I'm like, it's got to be right. It's going on my channel. But I think it paid off. I think this color scheme was something that really pops with like the reds and the mountains and everything like that. And the total investment of this pickleball court was $22,000. It's a lot of money. It's not cheap, and it actually would have been a lot more had we just built a triple pickleball court on its own. We would have had to have demoed it and reported it, so we actually were able to utilize what was there. And I had this vision where I really wanted it to be 3 pickleball courts. My partner, David Green, he was like, do you think you went overboard on the pickleball? Like, can we just do 1 court and a basketball court? It's like, it's got to be 3. I don't know why. I think maybe because I like the alliteration of triple pickle. But as you can see, like, I do think this triple pickle court really is something special. And so, as you remember, when I had this ugly court here, I lost $7,000. I made $13,756.54. Who's keeping track? But then the next year, after I installed the pickleball court, in the same month, November 2023, I actually booked $39,433. That $37,000 mark there is all the cleaning fees and everything added to that. So in 1 month, we went from $13,000 in November of 2022, and we're not even, here's the crazy thing. A year later, we've increased our bookings $25,000, and we're not even in November yet. Technically, like we have a couple days left. Like we actually might gross like 42, 43,000, maybe 44. That's pretty insane on one property. And so that was a total increase in 1 month of $25,676.58. That's huge. That's life-changing money right there. And that made us very profitable for that month. And so the ROI, just in 1 month, is 116%. Not the ROI of the entire investment. I'm just saying we made that much more in 1 month, and just in 1 month we paid for that pickleball court. The cool thing is we've actually paid for that pickleball court at this point maybe like 3 or 4 times in increased revenues. But it's just kind of crazy because like we've done that in the slow season of Scottsdale, and we're barely entering, we're in the shoulder season now. And November is where it really starts to pick up. So it gets me super excited for December, which I actually got a $10,000 booking yesterday. It was like a 3-day booking in December. And then January, February, March, April, May are gonna be huge months. Will I make $39,000? I don't know. I think I'll be pretty close though. And that'll be a pretty drastic change from last year's revenue. So a little bit of an update on this story. I didn't have these numbers present whenever I gave this talk, but I wanted to say that Scottsdale actually keeps heating up as a property for me. So last March, I actually grossed around 14,000 bucks. We can put that right here. And yeah, I lost about $6,000 or $7,000 on that property. Ugh. But again, remember I said, let's do something about it and not complain about it. And I'm happy to report that in pre-bookings for March of 2024, we are currently sitting at around $31,000. And here's where it gets really crazy. I have only booked 2 weeks in March, meaning that if I book the other 2 weeks in March, which I still have about 4 or 5 months to do so, I will probably gross $50,000 plus on my Scottsdale property, all thanks to pickleball, baby. All right, back to the video. And now I'm on a mission to polish my entire portfolio because I just like unlocked it. I was like, oh my gosh, 22,000 bucks. And in 1 month I paid it back. What if I did that to every single property in my portfolio? And so here's some of the projects that I'm working on. I've got this place in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's actually quite a cute cottage. Maybe you've seen it on YouTube. It's on 52 acres. But the thing is, it's not a cabin, right? And so the thing in the Smoky Mountains is that everything has to be a cabin. And so I'm already at a disadvantage as a host in the short-term rental market with a cottage. People still book it, of course, but I'm missing out on the main demographic. And so I'm asking myself, well, how can I make more money if I'm already a leg down? Question, does anybody know here what the #1 amenity in the Smoky Mountains is? Okay, you guys do know. A hot tub, preferably no bear. Not for my property, but I've had many hot tub bear situations at my property. And so I didn't actually have a hot tub. I was kind of thinking the same thing here, like I've got this amazing cute little home, it's on 52 acres, I literally own the mountain, like come on, and then it's like, does pretty good, it's profitable, but it doesn't crush it the way that I'd like it to. It, in all honesty, makes more money than I thought. I didn't actually intend for that house to be an Airbnb, but the fact that I was profitable and I didn't have a hot tub, I was like, well, maybe I can do some things, right? And so I had this piece of land in front of the property. This is the only clean photo I could find. This is a photo that I drew on and sent to my contractor, but it's this space right here. You can get a look into the process. And I was like, well, what if I built a deck, like a hot tub deck, like a treehouse hot tub deck? And so here's kind of like what it started to look like when I started working with someone to design it. I wanted this deck initially to be cantilevered over the cliff, and apparently that's actually very hard and needs a lot of engineering. And so I had to go back to the drawing board, and that's how I found this little spot on my property. When you're relaying these types of things, like I didn't do this, I hired someone to do this. But if you're gonna hire someone to do this, it actually is very helpful if you're an amazing artist like myself. This is something I'm actually very proud of, being able to really relay my vision as a sketch to like a designer, because then they can just run with it. And so that's my sketch, very professional. And this is what 100% of my thumbnails look like before they're ever made, by the way. And that's me on the phone with my contractor. Most flattering photo ever. But I sent that to the contractor, and you hop on a FaceTime and you talk about what you want, and you work through the process. And so I've just learned, the lesson here is that project managers are super dope. Like the person that designed this was actually the project manager for the property. He was the one that was communicating with the contractor. And when you're doing these long distance projects, you want to remember that it's who, not how, right? Who am I going to hire to do this? And obviously I can't build and manage a crazy epic treehouse deck from afar, but I can hire someone to help me do that, and my project manager really crushed that for me. And so here's what it looked like. It ended up being an amazing project, and I won't really know the results for a year. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. This deck is actually pretty nuts. It's like 10, 12, 13 feet in the air. It's like 800 square feet, but really, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I haven't been there, but I've seen all the videos. The guests love it. And this deck cost me about $44,000 and about another $5,000 or $6,000 for the hot tub. So I think I'm gonna be in, I'd have to look at my spreadsheet, but 48, 49,000, somewhere in there, which seems like a lot. A lot of you are like, dang, you spent 50K on a hot tub? Well, not really, because remember, if you're thinking about percentages, if you're thinking about returns, if I invest $50,000, does anybody know what I gotta make to get a 20% return? 10 grand, that's right. So the question is, will this increase my revenue by $10,000? I actually think it'll increase it by $20,000, and if that's true, then it's a 40% return. But still, if I only increase revenue $10,000, it was way easier to do this than to go buy another property, set it up, take off of work, fly cross country, deal with boxes, and all that kind of stuff. So I actually do have some interesting data here for this specific property. I didn't have this available to me at the time, but I have it now. As I mentioned, it was about $48,000 to $49,000 to build that treehouse deck. And I finally have some numbers to present to you. Okay, in November last year, I grossed about $5,500. We'll post that right here. This November, 1 year later, after building my treehouse deck, we are sitting at about $9,400, which is about a $4,000 difference or so. Safe to say that I'll make a 10% return on my investment on that treehouse deck. But really, now that that listing is starting to click, I really do predict that $10,000 to $20,000 in additional revenue is completely possible thanks to a hot tub and a treehouse deck. So that brings me to the next property, Crystal Beach. That's my house. It's about 3 or 4 houses from the beach. It's actually very close. So it's a little cute pink house, and I got this on Creative Finance. All in, I bought this property for about $50,000, and it was kind of crazy. It came furnished, and so I got into this property, and I was like, it's a cute beach home. Like, I wanted it for myself. Like, I wanted this for me and my family. But the problem is that every house out there pretty much looks the same. Like, really, like a lot of the houses in Crystal Beach, they're just kind of bright colored homes that have beachy themes to it. And so, again, like, how can I make money on this? How can I make more money on the current property that I have? And I had this idea. A couple of my friends over here, we all went to Kansas City just as a little reunion tour. And at the museum, they had this little exhibit of all these cool little mini golf experiential things and experiential, I don't know how to say, I'm not gonna workshop this on stage. Fun things. It was fun things on their golf courses. And we just had so much fun playing, really. I mean, it was really just like one of my favorite memories in the world. And I was thinking, like, what if I could help my guests like have those same memories, I was like, that's really what Airbnb is all about. And so I was like, okay, I am gonna build a golf course at my beach house. That's one thing I've never seen at the beach before. Like, I see really just like, I think the amenities are kind of lacking. You can maybe sometimes rent like a ATV. There's like cables like what my neighbor had, but like the amenities are kind of lacking out there. And I'm like, if I come in and build a mini golf course, I think no one is going to be able to top this. And so again, I've got a very super scientific process here whenever I'm like designing these types of things, because like I'm an artist, right? And so that's it. That is how my mini golf course came to life. That is my attempt at a sarcophagus there on the left, and then another little mini golf thing. I honestly could not tell you. I drew it and I was like, I think this makes sense, and then I sent it to my designer. And here's how I actually pulled it off. So I took those sketches, and beforehand I actually went to like an antique store, and I found the different things that I wanted on my mini golf course, because it's just so much easier to design around that. And this place was like a 10-minute walk from my house, and I had seen that little twirly bird. It's like a helicopter, like when I moved to Houston 2 years ago. And I walk by it all the time, and I'm like, man, I really want that. I have no reason to ever own that thing. And then when I thought of the mini golf course, I was like, I'm in. And then I was like, how much, man? And he was like, $1,600. I was like, I don't want it that bad. But we did negotiate, and I got them down to $1,250. And I used these sort of as the basis of kind of like what ended up coming to life. And so I designed all these sketches here. And then I went to Fiverr, and I typed in mini golf course design, right? This is super easy. And I literally paid a guy $80. $80, and he came out with this. And initially he sent me kind of the 2D here, and then the 3D, and then the other things, and we went back and forth a little bit. And then he even incorporated all of the things that I sent him, that lion, and then the little horsey guy, like all those things were things that I actually sent him. And here's what I actually built. That's my mini golf course, and it was really cool. Like I went there and I got to actually hang out with my family, and it's a really special thing to play mini golf with your daughter. And your son on this thing. It's so adorable watching them play. And I'm like, dude, I just created this for other people for the rest of this listing's life. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. And so I even started doing some lifestyle. That little cutie on the left there is my wife, and that little cutie on the right there is my son, Rook. And we've actually started incorporating a lot of this into the actual listing on Airbnb. So I guess the lesson here is you don't need to be good at drawing to pull off magic. I really want y'all to know that. Like a lot of you are like, man, how do you do the things you do and all that kind of stuff? I'm like, dude, I'm just good at talking to the people that are good at it. And that's really the skill that every single one of you need to develop is how can you relay your vision to somebody else in a way that makes sense and trust the pros to do their thing. Which brings me to Austin, Texas. Austin is a city that has some top tier design, but it's 2.5 hours from here, and it's kind of hard for me to drive to Austin all the time. And it also is just very competitive in the design landscape. And so just quickly I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, what's the lesson here? Hire a pro, even if you are a pro. That's right. This is really like my first time getting into this and like hiring other people and outsourcing the design. It kind of hurts a little bit because I'm like, I want to do it myself. But really, like it's when you're scaling, it doesn't make sense to be in the weeds of your own property all the time. And so I thought, well, I'm going to hire an interior designer. And so it's Bridget Bitch on Instagram. Highly recommend you go follow her. She's got some of the most insane design I've ever seen. Like seriously, everything she does is so good. Like I'm just blown away by all of her design, and she goes viral all the time. And I thought she could bring my creative vision to life. And so I was like, okay, here's what I got for you, Bridget. I want you to take your design, your style, and I've got this like idea. I want it to be like colorful Beetlejuice. And so I want it to be like this kind of groovy like Austin theme, but it's like very like bold, and it's got waves and all this kind of stuff. And so she was like, yeah, love that for you. However, what if we did like a bachelorette party theme? And she really talked to me about this, and the lesson I had to quickly learn here was like, you can't have two artists like collaborating sometimes, right? Like this is her thing. And I have to quickly learn to listen to the pro. I paid her, it was a very high amount, worth it. But it's a premium, and it's like, why are you gonna pay for a Ferrari but then ask for them to swap out the rims for hubcaps, right? Like, you gotta let the people at Ferrari design the car how they want to. That's kind of the moral of the story here. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust Bridget. And so she showed me quickly, really through like the data, that no one is really appealing to the bachelorette party demographic in Austin, and it's like the second most popular bachelorette destination in the country. And so that's a huge gap. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. We started kind of looking through Airbnb, and it's like, okay, maybe she's onto something. It made me realize this whole thing with the Airbnb where if you market to everyone, you market to no one. And that's really like all about finding your demographic, your avatar on Airbnb, and making sure that you're actually appealing to them. With the mini golf thing, I want families to stay at my place, right? I don't want bachelor parties at my place because they're gonna rip up the turf. But I want families to go there, and arguably kids do rip things up way more. But that's another conversation for another day. But it just made me realize you should niche down, right? And so she started putting together these amazing mood boards, and she's gonna have like a selfie station and a vanity station for all the ladies to like do their makeup and take photos and all that kind of stuff. And she's got a little thing at the top of it that says like she's gonna paint "Ride It, My Pony." No idea what that means, but I assume it's a lyric to Shania Twain song or something. Hold your horses and giddy up. Lucky you, I do know what that means. But as you can see here, this is how my property will actually come to life. And kind of thinking about it, it's like one of those things where bachelorette parties, girls' night is sort of the idea, but you actually have a couple of other like target markets on this one. You might have a family where it's like a mom and 2 daughters and a husband. And the mom's picking out the Airbnb, and she says, hey, we really like this one. And the husband's like, it's fine, I just need a place to sleep, right? You might actually have bachelor parties that stay there thinking it's pretty funny to stay at our bachelorette pad, right? And so there are actually a few other people that we think we can appeal to, but the idea is on weekends we're gonna be charging a pretty penny. That's a dinosaur that she bought. We're gonna put that in the backyard, and obviously I'm gonna be doing pickleball on it, and it's gonna be a pink pickleball court. Like, it is lots of pink, and trust me, like, I'm like, all right, I've had to let it all go, and I'm like, we're gonna do this thing, because again, you have to go all in if you're gonna do it. I don't wanna go in 6 months and like add things. I'm like, I'm doing it all now. And so her process is also really relatively simple. Like, she's obviously talented at the design piece, but that's Pinterest. She just puts together Pinterest boards of things that she likes, and she crafts her vision from that. That's what you have to do, guys. Just put together your vision, hand it to someone that can execute, okay? So my almost final lesson here is to hire good contractors, okay? Alex Aldred, Giordano, Dom, can y'all just stand up really fast? Giordano back here, Alex over here, Dom, where you at? Where you at, Dom? Oh, come on, you gotta be around here, Dom. In the middle, there he is, there he is. I knew you were there, slacker. Okay, these guys are awesome. I have met all of these guys at conferences. Alex came to HostCon last year, and he was like, hey man, I want to partner. And I was like, well, let's take it slow. Let's build something together. And he's building an amazing little tiny house for us, a premium tiny house. Like, it's going to be insane in North Carolina. And it's all because of HostCon. And he's been amazing to work with. If you guys want a contractor in North Carolina, this is your guy. We got Dom there in the back, who I didn't meet at HostCon. I actually met him at STR Summit, Sarah and Tony Robinson's conference, and he's been the guy that has saved my ass so many times on 2 different projects in Austin, and I met him at a conference. In Giordano, I met him at HostCon last year as well. And my mini golf story, the thing I didn't tell you is that my first contractor got methed out halfway through and walked out, and I was screwed. And I called Clint, my business partner. I'm like, dude, you want to build decks? I need help with this. And he's like, see what Giordano's up to. And I called Giordano and I said, dude, will you do this for me? He's like, I'll be there. And he came out 2 days later from College Station, like 3 hours away. And the next week, he was out there building these mini golf courses, all right? So if you need someone in Bryan, if you need someone in Austin, in North Carolina, these are your guys. But these are connections that I found at HostCon. So my point is, go find people here. Now, you don't have to find your next contractor here, but your next business partner, your next investor, your next funder, they're in this room. Final lesson, document everything. You know, this is me building my first tiny house in Los Angeles, California. All right, maybe not everything. You don't have to document everything, but almost everything. Document the whole journey in excruciating detail. Because you never know if one day you'll need it to tell your story at your sold out conference. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.